Good evening. My name is Michael Randolph, and I'm with the Center for Nonprofit and Community Development. Our workshop today is going to focus on building organizational capacity related to nonprofits, specifically small grassroots nonprofits. These organizations have to compete with those elite nonprofits that receive most of the funding. Although most of these grassroots nonprofits um, have a solution that is, if not the same, better than those organizations that we call the elite organization. This presentation is going to talk about how do you position yourself to be able to compete against these elite nonprofits, so these nonprofits that receive money all the time. The one key to their success is what we call organizational capacity, having the capacity to actually go after those funding programs. So we started in 2011. Just to give some information about me and my background and why it was so important to me to start this organization. Our nonprofit is more of a training nonprofit. We provide all levels and all different types of professional training and professional workshops. So I was born in Baltimore. We call it Sandtown. And this is probably one of the most poorest communities in the nation. So I specialize in program development, which is important if you're going after those dollars, strategic planning and tactical planning, business development, organizational development, business proposals, and community and economic development, to name a few. I first came into the game of nonprofits in the early 1980s, where I started as a community organizer. And from there, I went to a community strategic planner, program developer, eventually to designing comprehensive solutions to urban industry, developer designing comprehensive solutions to urban distressed neighborhoods or marginalized neighborhoods. I stated earlier we started in 2011, and the focus of our organization is to provide technical support in the area of effective skill sets to start up and existing organization. We focus on national and best practices approaches. To date, we have provided technical assistance to over 3,500 nonprofits, government agencies, faith-based groups, businesses, and individuals in over 20 states. In over 20 states, we have also provided assistance to getting nonprofit up and running, providing the technical assistance in terms of document needed to start that nonprofit. That is, we call it document preparation for 501c3 status. As you can see, been doing this for a minute. And one of the reasons why I started this nonprofit because I saw what was happening to your mom and pop and your small grassroots nonprofits who had the solutions, but unfortunately they didn't have the infrastructure necessary to go after funds at the level that is needed in order to eliminate the problems that they're trying to solve. Let's talk about in general as it relates to the state of nonprofits. Keep in mind, especially if you're a new nonprofit getting started, or even your grassroots nonprofit. A study was done by Forbes, and what they found was that 50% of new nonprofits fail within the first 12 months. That is 50% of nonprofits fail every year within the first 12 months of their operation. Added to that, about 76% of nonprofits operate on a budget of less than $500,000. And these nonprofits that we're talking about related to the 67% is based mostly African American nonprofits. 1/3 of all nonprofits operate with less than $30,000 a year. These nonprofits, when we talk about these nonprofits that are doing the work but not getting the money for it, primarily made up of primarily they're made up of volunteers, and 43.5% of the organization operate without one full-time employee. Keep this in mind. 43% of nonprofits, especially in that less than $30,000 a year bracket, operate without any full-time employee. Add to that, 45% operate with no part-time employees. These organizations, you probably can identify with it, are actually out there doing the work. They're on the ground level doing the work to make the solutions, to bring about the solutions, but yet they're not getting the funding because they don't have the training necessary to go after the dollars. And that's pretty much what we do as well. Now, over 75% of white nonprofits, when you look at the whole picture, have at least one full-time employee. When you look at Black organizations, we're talking only about 17% of Black nonprofits operate with at least one full-time employee. Folks, that's a problem out here. And again, that's why we pretty much came into play to change these numbers and provide the professional training necessary so that your nonprofit can compete with those other nonprofits that are always taking in the money. The organization. What is it that funders look at when they look at an organization? One of the questions you want to ask yourself is your organization ready to go after funding, especially major funding? So let's talk about organizational capacity. I call it the why, the who, the what, the how, and the how much. If you want to be effective in terms of going after those dollars, let's look at the list of things, and this is only a list, it's not everything that you should have into play. So One of the things you want to have into play is why does your organization exist? And you need to articulate and make it clear what problem do you exist. Then you need to be able to tell that story about who you are. That is, what makes your organization uniquely qualified to lead this effort. You want to show at this point, you want to show your experience and qualification or the experience and qualification of support staff that will come on board. The other question is, what programs and activities do you propose to solve in terms of the problem? You definitely want to articulate your mission and your specific program activities. The next question is, and when you're talking about programs, we're talking about your program design. Yeah, look at your program design. One way that you want to look at your program design is by way of theory of change, logic model, and other matrix that you can use. The next question, how will you implement these programs? That is, you have to provide a detail of how your program and project will be implemented. You also need to show evidence-based information about the likelihood of your program being successful. So this is where you begin to talk about quantitative and qualitative research. Then you want to ask the question as to how much will it cost to solve the problem? And what is the cost of ignoring the problem? You need to be able to frame both of those. A key to being successful as an organization is having an organizational infrastructure. For example, your policies and procedures as it relates to your employment manual, your board policies and procedures, your financial policies and procedures, all those policies and procedures that shows the framework in which you operate out of. Then you need to talk about staffing. What staff are you going to need in order to do what you do? What are their qualifications? Funding sustainability is a key component to your success. You'll hear us talk about it a lot. That if the only thing you're going after is grants, then you're dependent upon others. We focus on grants slash earn income or operating your own business, nonprofit business. It's a way to stay sustainable. We'll talk about that later. Physical control. How are you handling that money? People want to know what money is coming in, who gave it, and what it was used for. Meaning that you have to be able to account for every cent that's coming in and how it was spent. The other thing is that you want to be able to show you have access to support resources for sustainability. Again, remember we talked earlier about nonprofits and that a large percent of them, or 50%, close within the first year of operation. So you need to be able to have a support resource sustainability program put together. We talked about a little bit about that earlier. And then the final organizational structure, although it certainly is not the only list of organizational infrastructure, but I just emphasize these here, is your SWOT analogy, your SWOT test. That is, how strong is your organization? Having a SWOT analogy actually is your plan to win. Sustainability. How do you create uh how do you create the capital necessary excuse me necessary to be a strong and sustainable organization? Let's look at those elements. First, technology. It is so key to your sustainability that your organization understand technology. Notice that I put it at the top because it then controls the capital that you need to bring in to your organization. So let's talk about those capital that you're going to need to bring into your organization. The first is called social capital. That is, what partnerships are you collaborative are you getting into? What is your connection with the community? So social meaning that well, are you partnering with other nonprofits and other organizations? Do you have a community buy-in strategy that's out there? So social capital mean everything related to people and other people or an organization. Your relationship with the news media, the faith community, all of these are what we call social capital that you have to have in order to really be sustainable. Financial capital, we all know that you need to have money. You need to have a sustainable funding strategy that you have in place to make sure that your organization is financially around for the long haul. So strategic capital, you have to have a strategic and tactical plan that guides what you're doing and how you're going to do it and why you're going to do it. Then you want to need human capital, experts, tech people that's part of your organization to make it sustainable. For example, if you're doing a homeless organization, you want to have counselors and outreach workers. So you have to have that human capital as part of your organization in order to be sustainable. I consider this one of the most important capitals that you need to put together, and that's political capital. Contrary to population, the politics cover everything. And should I also say media? I should say media as well. Political media capital. If you build relationship with these entities, you increase your chance of being sustainable. One of the things you want to have in terms of, and we talked about the strategic plan, is a 5 year strategic plan. Your project, 5 years strategic plan, and you should have this together before you apply for major grants. And that plan should consist of some of these important parts: your goals, your strategies, your objectives, your objective, your tactics, your operation and methods, and your budget. Let's name a couple of some of the things that's part of your strategic plan. Before you do your strategic plan, you should put together what's known as a SWOT analogy. Analysis. This is a strategic planning tool used to evaluate your strengths, your weaknesses, your opportunities, and your threats involved in the project or business that you plan to take on. A lot of organizations fail because they don't do this analogy. Normally, you want to hire somebody to do this analogy if you can't do it for yourself. The first thing you want to do And also, if you do this, make sure you let other people look at it. There's experts in the area to tell you how on point you are. Make sure you do this as a small nonprofit. Let experts see it. Ask them to just look at it, give you some feedback to whatever plan or program that you want to do. It's nothing like getting feedback before you actually put that program out there. Now, I did get distracted for a second. Let me get back on point. Streams. When we talk about strengths, we talk about what do you do well? What do your organization do well? What are the unique resources that you can draw upon? What resources can you draw upon? What do others see as your strength? You want to do a survey, get a focus group, do some type of research that um, allows other people to articulate what they see as your strengths. The next thing is you want to look at what are your weaknesses? And contrary to popular belief, every organization has a weakness. And when you're going under that column, you want to talk about what can you do to improve it once you identify what those weaknesses are. Where do you have fewer resources than others? You got to look at that. You have to ask yourself, what are others likely to view as as your weakness? What are other people looking in on you? What do they see as your weaknesses? Then it comes to opportunity. Opportunities is the bread and butter of the organization. And then in terms of opportunity, you have to ask yourself, what are good opportunities? What are the good opportunities that are available to you? What trends can you take advantage of? And that's very important. Look at the trends, look at what's going on, and lock onto those trends and make it part of your organization, especially in the subject matter of what you do. That's what keep you new and fresh. How can you turn your strengths into opportunities? Let me repeat that again. How can you turn your strengths into opportunities? And then next, your threats. What trends can hurt you? I know it was hard, but it should be what trends can hurt you? What is your competition doing? Those people that are doing the same thing to you want to gauge in this, the same thing that you're doing. You want to look at what they're doing and always try to do better. That's how you stay in the game. It's business, folks. And lastly, you want to treat your, you want to, what you want to do is you ask yourself, what threats do your weakness expose to you? What are those threats and what does it expose to you? And how can you reduce that exposure? The key to a strong organization. Your organization have to have value. That is, what do you believe in? Your mission. Why do you exist? This tends to be your long-term organizational goals and objective. Your vision. Your vision is where are you going? Term um, in terms of your organization. You want to do this in the midterm. And then your strategy. Your strategy is how will we know when we're there? And the other is your tactics. Your tactics address the question of what will you do to get there? Both of these are your short-term um, strategies. So you have three levels of strategy: your long-term, your medium, and your short-term strategy. Again, this is what funders look at when they begin to look at your organization. And this is why those bigger organizations, those elite organizations are able to get their money because they're able to articulate the information that the funders are looking for. There are different stages of a nonprofit, but let's talk about the advanced stage. This is a stage that you at, and this is how you really begin to bring in the money. The first thing is, have you created an organizational operation plan? Have you developed a sustainable and fundable community and fundable program for your organization? We call it program development. All the programs that you're doing, you have to have them on paper, black and white, and they have to be able to pass the test. As you know, we talked earlier about logic model, failure change, those other matrices they have to use in terms of showing your program development, your program activity. Funding development. We talk also about funding development. Before I go to funding development, let me go back to the previous matter I talked about, which is program development and organizational operation. In both cases, you have to have both what's known as a feasibility as well as a plausibility component to your nonprofit. Sustainable funding development strategy in place. And should not only be grants, but also earn income. Because when you got a funding sustainability strategy, you can grow your nonprofit. But in order for funders to give you money, you have to have a financial management system. And this is very important. A lot of nonprofits don't take advantage of this. You have to be able to market your nonprofit either on social media, using artificial intelligence, ChatGPT, or experts in order to market your organization so people so people can know who you are. You need to be able to tell your story in a convincing way that people want to give you funding. And in public relationship, it's important that you have that trust and people know that what you say you're going to do is what you do. And so you have to make sure you got that good public relationship strategy put in place. This is important. Your online presence and visibility. That goes back earlier to what we talked about in terms of marketing. But this is both marketing as well as other components to get your business out there in front of everybody. And again, that online presence can be social media or other forms of electronic um, things that you can use. I should also mention technology, and I don't have it listed here, but one of the most important survival to your organization is having the latest in terms of technology. So that brings us to the conclusion of this, and I do hope that it is of some use to you. Um, if you are a grassroots nonprofit and you're struggling, you've been around 5 years, 6 years, 10 years. But what you're saying is that most of your funding is self-funding or through small donations from individuals. Then let us help you to up your game so you can have that organizational capacity to go for those dollars necessary to fulfill your vision. Most people that start nonprofits have a dream. Most people start nonprofits also have a pain. And that pain relates to something that has happened in their life. that they want to start to make sure that nobody else ever have to go through that. Or people that simply are passionate and they believe instead of talking about it, that they want to make a change in society. These people are what we call ordinary people doing extraordinary things. So you can reach us at the two phone numbers you see there or our social media, LinkedIn, YouTube, as well as Facebook. If you want to contact us because you are struggling as an organization and you're really looking at how can you find an affordable way in order to get you to where you need to be at, feel free to cut and paste the how, tell us how we can tell us how we can help you. That link below there. That link is going to take you to a form in which you're going to tell us a little bit of information about you, where how we can help you. If for no other reason, I hope this has been helpful to you. Our next workshop is going to focus on program design. How do you design the program necessary to get funding? What are the different components of a nonprofit? I'm sorry, what are the different components of a program design? And so until that time, please feel free to contact us, and I hope this has been helpful to you. We provide an array of different professional workshops to nonprofits and small businesses, for-profit businesses, in terms of growing your capacity. So I hope this has been helpful to you. Please link up with us, subscribe to us on YouTube, on Facebook, and as well as LinkedIn.